วัสดีค่ะ
Hi everyone, thanks for joining me again. This is Peter. You're watching Thailandbound, and I have a guest for you today. I have the return of Peter from Thai Legal Protection. Today we're going to talk about opening up a business in Thailand. Peter's going to answer all the questions. I've got a list of questions here. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to bring Peter straight in. He's there in the background, so let's bring him in and see what he has to say today. Hello, Peter, down there in Pattaya.
Hi, Peter. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good. Have you noticed it's getting much hotter in Thailand now?
Yeah, I was enjoying the colder weather and the lower, electricity bills, right? But now
Yeah,
it's back to
definitely.
normal.
I I went out for lunch a little bit early, and it's so hot compared to a month ago. But anyway, we're
Yeah.
not here to talk about the weather.
Mhm.
Okay, so look, I think this is the third video that we've done together. Peter has a company called Thai Legal Protection. He's actually he lives in Pattaya, but the company's nationwide. And just for people who haven't watched any of my previous videos with you as a guest, Peter, why don't you briefly tell us again what it is your company do?
Okay, sure. So we offer a legal membership to Thais and foreigners in Thailand to help them out with any legal concerns that they have at a much more affordable price than what they would have to pay if they went and hired a lawyer, and it's a lot more convenient as well too. So yeah.
You've got quite a few people on your books already, haven't you?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, and just to let anybody know, Peter has got his own website. If it's something you think you would be interested in, because if you get caught by the cops at 3 o'clock in the morning for whatever reason, and you need some help, you can get on a phone. There's a 24-hour service line there. Peter works with Thai lawyers. It's all legit. I'll put a link in the description to your website, Peter, like I did the last two times. So if anybody's interested, they go and click on that link in the description below, and you can read up exactly what it is Peter's company do. Because even things like, I know if you take on a condo, and you get a contract, if it's in Thai, for instance, or in English, you can give it to Peter's firm, and the lawyers will go through it and just make sure everything's okay. I think I'm right in saying that, right, Peter?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Okay, good. Right. Okay, let's move on to today's subject. So we've done a couple already, the pitfalls of renting a condo, and I forgot what the other one was, but we've done two. This is a third one. So today we're talking about people might want to come to Thailand to open a business. It can be done. It's not as straightforward as what people think it is. But I've got some questions here that I've prepared, and I'm sure I'll think of some more along the way. So I think I'll jump straight in with a fairly simple question, which is typically, why do foreigners want to come to Thailand and open a business?
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question, Peter. So, there's plenty of reasons why people want to open up a business in Thailand. The most common one is they want to buy property. Okay, and the reason for that is foreigners cannot own property, but now with if you want to open up a company, you can go that route, and the company can own the property. However, recently there's been a new law that they were considering where foreigners will be allowed to buy property, but the investment is quite high. So
Yeah.
this option of opening up a company and using that to buy property is still going to be an option for most people. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually read a while ago, I think it was about 3 months ago, that the government were considering letting foreigners buy up to one rai of land to be able to
Mhm.
build a house on there. Did that ever go through, or do you know anything about that?
Yeah, they tried to pass it, but it didn't basically pass because it wasn't planned out properly, and so they're going back and relooking at it again. Yeah.
Right. I mean, just for anybody who doesn't know, a foreigner can't actually buy and own land here. They can own a condo, and I think is
Mm.
it 49% of a business they can own?
Yeah, it's 49%, but there's a couple of exceptions to that rule, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's ways around that as well, isn't there, with certain partners and stuff. Okay, so what options do foreigners have then if they come here and they want to open a business? We'll get into, towards the end of the video, I'll get into some more into details about some particular businesses like bars, for instance, because a
Hmm.
lot of people ask me about that. But I'll
Hmm.
go through this list, and if you can let us know what kind of options foreigners have if they come here and they want to open a business.
Okay. Well, there's still a couple of other reasons why foreigners would want to open up a business. So maybe we can just finish that topic first. So
Okay.
the first, the second reason is they may want, to have a more secure visa and work permit option for themselves. And at the
Mm.
same time, they're able to make money. So that's another option. That's another reason why people want to open up a business. And then, number three, they actually really want to own a business here in Thailand and do what they're good at, whether it be, in export, import, stuff like that, right? Or maybe a consulting business. And so, that's another reason why people open up a business here, because they actually want to come here and find customers. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Probably a lot of people don't know this, but there are protected employments here in Thailand. For instance, you couldn't come here
Mm-hmm.
and set up your own plumbing business and become a plumber. There's certain
Mm-hmm.
you can look it up on the website, but there's certain industries that foreigners can't come and do. You can't come here and
Mm-hmm.
be a taxi driver or a plumber or an electrician.
Mm.
Those are correct. Those are protected. But could a foreigner come over here? Because I don't know this. Could a foreigner
Mm-hmm.
come over here who was say an electrician, set up an electrician kind of style business, but employ Thais to go out and do the work? Would that be legal or would that not be legal?
Yeah, in some cases it might be legal, but if your nationality is American, then you're protected under what's called the Thai American Amity Treaty,
Hmm.
and so Americans are able to do a lot of those types of businesses that are protected for only Thais. But there's
Mm,
some different regulations that they have to follow, and maybe another specific type of a license
sure.
that they have to get. It's called a foreign business license, and there's some other benefits that we can talk about in a couple, in a little bit more detail after. Yeah.
Okay. So if a foreigner comes here and he wants to open a business, he's got an idea, he's got the money, comes here to open his business, what are the sort of typical challenges that he would face or she would face when they come here and open a business?
Okay. Well, especially if they're going to be needing a work permit because they're going to be working in the business,
Mm,
as well as just, not only just managing it or being a shareholder, right? If they're going to actually work in the business. So the challenge is to make sure that the business qualifies to give him the work permit, him or her
yeah.
the work permit. So that's one of the biggest challenges. And there's a couple of things that are the biggest challenge of the work permit. And one is the ratio of Thai to foreign staff that they have to hire to get a work permit. And the other one is the capital requirement that is required to invest in the company to get that work permit. Yeah.
Right, right. And do you know, is there any kind of bottom line figure that you can give us that you would need to invest in, you'd guarantee to get a work permit, or
Yeah.
does it vary?
So no, it's there's a regulation that stipulates that. So if you're married to a Thai, then you need 1 million baht in registered capital. If you're not married to a Thai, you need 2 million baht in registered capital. Yeah.
So, okay, so that's about the first figure is about £25,000,
Mm-hmm.
$28,000 US, and the second figure you gave us, if you're not married to a Thai, that well, you're looking at about £50,000 or maybe 55,
Mm-hmm.
58,000 US dollars. Okay, and you did
Mm-hmm.
touch on hiring staff. So, is there a minimum on hiring? If you open a company, you've got to hire some Thai staff. What's a minimum? Is there any stipulation there?
Yeah, so it's like I think that you're aware of already, Peter. It's four Thai staff per one work permit. So if that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ratio, it's 4 to 1, and that's actually one of the other biggest challenges. Not so much the capital as but more as the Thai staff. And I think that what a lot of foreigners don't do, and they should do, is instead of just going and finding a lawyer to open up the company and finding those shortcuts to do some of these things, you're
Mm,
better off making a good solid business plan for yourself. And there are options to open up a sole proprietorship, actually, for 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 an American citizen, or and if they're married, it's very easy to do that. So
right.
depending on your nationality, then there's a way that you can start a small business here without going all in by opening up this full on business, right? But that's very limited to Americans. Yeah.
So let me ask you another question then, assuming somebody's not American, because I know they're a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more relaxed on the laws because of that treaty. But for the sake of this
Mm-hmm.
video, let's assume that anybody who's interested isn't American. The Americans who are watching now, they know they have some extra benefits, so they can go and look that up for
Hmm.
themselves. But for everybody else, there's one rule. So let me ask you something else that comes to mind. So scenario: I come here, I'm married to a Thai, and I want to open a business with my Thai wife together. How would that
Hmm.
work?
Oh, okay. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to come up with the objectives of the business to make sure that it's allowed, right? And obviously, if your Thai wife is going to be involved, then because of the rule, so if you're not American, then you can't be the majority shareholder in the company. So if you're
Right.
married to a Thai, you would set your Thai wife up to be the majority shareholder in the company, and you would then be the minority shareholder along with, it used to be a minimum of 3 shareholders and 3 promoters. But a couple of days ago, the Thai government eased up on that. And now you can have a minimum of 2 shareholders and 2 promoters, and they can both be the same. So in
Right.
other
Right.
words, on one hand, it's very good that you don't have to involve more people in the company. But on the other hand, there's a bit of a negative there because, it's easier for that one person to get control over the company as opposed,
Sure.
if there's 3 people that are voting, right? Or maybe even more people, if you
Yeah.
have more than 3 shareholders.
Okay, so I wanted to elaborate on that last question of mine actually about if you were with a Thai
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend and you open a business. So you hit the
Mm-hmm.
nail on the head there. You said you'd have to give the majority shareholder to your Thai wife. Now, what about the
Mm-hmm.
guy who's very savvy, comes out here and says, well, hang on a minute. If I open a business, it becomes successful, and a year down the line, she suddenly doesn't want me around. I haven't got a leg to
Mm-hmm.
stand on because she's got the majority shareholding. Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything he can do to protect himself so that that woman couldn't do that? I'm thinking of worst case scenarios.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess the biggest thing that they can do is the shareholders can can have partnership agreements or joint venture agreements, and in those joint venture agreements, it talks about both parties' obligations and what will happen in certain circumstances if something like a divorce happens or some other circumstance, right? So you'd have a
Mm,
joint venture agreement, and there are some other practices where that joint venture agreement, there would be a situation where the parties would actually pre-sign the share transfer agreement, but that's
sure.
something that's kind of looked down upon by the Thai government. And along with the other thing, which is like instead of you actually having like giving your Thai wife you know 51% of the company, for example, right? Or actually taking on your own Thai partner, and maybe they didn't supply the full amount of the investment for their
Mm,
shares, right? So there's been incidents where people will just have a nominee Thai shareholder, and
right, right.
that means that that person really didn't invest in the business, and that's highly illegal, but it's still
Mm,
widely practiced. It's one of those scenarios where it's something that's always done, but it's very, very illegal, right? so
yeah,
so those
sure.
are just some of the things that people will do, and our organization never will be a part of something like that. But if you do watch this video and you go and you talk to another lawyer and they start talking about things like signing blank shareholder transfer agreements and nominee Thai shareholders, you should probably steer clear of that.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I had a question there, and it's just gone. So I'll go back to my list. Hopefully, it will come back
Mhm.
to me. So
Sure.
yeah, what sort of oh no, I remember what it was now. I was going to ask you. So if somebody comes here and they've been to Thailand a few times and
Hmm.
they want to open a business, but they really don't want to make any mistakes. They don't want to go in with a cavalier attitude. They want to go in, find out how it all works properly. I mean, who would you advise would be the best person or the best company for him to look up? What sort of would he speak to a lawyer? Is there a business advisor office here, anything like that?
Hmm.
Where would he get that information from?
Okay. Well, a lot of visa agents will also have that service available, and
Visa
they'll give
agents,
you
yeah.
a free consultation because the actual company setup is quite straightforward, right?
Okay, yeah.
Also, a lot of lawyers will give one free consultation, but often that's not enough because you have a lot of follow-up questions. So
Mm, mm,
our service, we can take you through all of the, as many consultations as you want on the company setup process. You can tell us all your challenges that you're facing, and we'll give you options on how to overcome those challenges. And then you may or may not decide at the end of that process that you want to open up a company. So it's a lot more affordable if you use one of our, service like ours, because it's really a reasonable price, our membership. So that way you can explore all of your legal options before you
So
decide to pull the trigger.
yeah, sure. So what about if a guy comes out here and he wants to open a business and, with a work, it's quite difficult to get it from your own country. It's a lot easier out here. How would you suggest that if a guy's made up his mind, he wants to come over here and say, open a bar, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, just what
Mm-hmm.
Thailand needs, another bar, but he comes over and he
Mm-hmm.
thinks that. So would he get a kind of tourist visa when he comes over and then change that into a different visa and then apply for a work permit? Or does he have to do all that from his embassy in his own country? How does it work?
Okay. Well, that depends on their nationality. Okay. So if they're from like a G7 or G8 country, they can come on a tourist visa, come on a visa exempt entry. They can do the company setup process, and then they can convert their tourist visa or their visa exempt entry to a non-immigrant B visa. But let's
Yeah.
just say they come from a company like India, for example. There's a very high population of Indians that are working here in Thailand, and they own a lot of businesses as well too.
Mm.
So they have a restriction on their nationality, and they need. So what they would do is they might come here on a tourist visa, or maybe on another type of visa, like even the elite visa, do all of their homework, do all of the stuff that they need to do. And then when it comes time to get their visa, what they'll have to do is make a trip back to their home country and do the visa at the Thai embassy and then come back on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, what sort of money are we talking about then? If people come here, because obviously, it's a difficult question because I'm not sort of asking how much money do you need to put in to open a business because
Mm-hmm,
business is
mm-hmm,
various. A guy might be a multi-millionaire and come want to open a five-star hotel, or
mm-hmm.
he might want to come and open I don't know, a
Sure.
massage parlor, for instance, which is
Mm-hmm,
a
mm-hmm,
protected business. But
mm-hmm.
what about fees and registrations and payoffs and what does it all cost?
Okay. So the actual fee, the government fees are very low, and it depends on the capital that you want to register, right? That's the big fee. The other fee is very small. So it's like,
Mm,
if you want to register 2 million baht in capital, there's a ratio of how much that's going to cost to register that capital. Secondly, you have to think of the legal fees, which are actually quite reasonable, but
mm,
depending on who you use, right? So if you use a service like ours, or maybe we call them paralegals back in the West, right? But there
mm,
are some companies like visa agents or other companies that will offer some of these types of services that are, they're legal services, but they don't need to be a lawyer to actually do them. And
sure.
company setup is one of them. You don't need to be a
Mm,
lawyer, right? So there's the
mm,
legal fees. If you want to open up a bar, there's licenses that you have to procure, right? For alcohol, selling alcohol, and for selling food, you need a restaurant license. And if you're a hotel, there's other licenses that you need for that as well too. So you have to
mm,
kind of think about these things. And I guess it's difficult to put a figure on it, right? Because we don't know what type of business people are interested in doing. So they just
exactly.
have to be prepared for some of these things, like
Yeah.
licenses, legal fees, and then the government fees, depending on the capital, right, that you want to
Mm,
register. So if you don't have, a good chunk of savings on you, and your investors don't put in their share, then everything is going to come onto you, right? And so
mm,
that's why
mm,
the joint venture agreement's important if you're providing all of the money, right? So
mm.
yeah, obviously you have to start at the 2 million baht if you need a work permit, or 1 million if you're married to a Thai, and then it just goes up from there depending on the type of business that you want to operate. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think it's also important to let people know that most things that need to be done here, as far as registering licenses and applying for
Mm-hmm.
license, whatever, registering countries, it can all be done by yourself. But typically, it's a lot easier to use an agent. There's agents to do
Mm-hmm.
practically everything in here. And for example,
Mm-hmm.
I could have gone and got my own long-term visa to stay here, but I would have had to, have forms translated into English. I would have had to stand in lines all
Mm-hmm.
day, take tickets,
Mm-hmm.
get up at 6 in the morning, be there for 7, and it would have been such a hellish process. And then if there's one small mistake, I have to go back and do the documentation again. Whereupon, if you use an agent, they all know each other and it's all done very, very quickly. If there's a
Mm-hmm.
mistake in the document,
Mm-hmm.
they just
Mm-hmm.
sign it off, and it's a lot easier. But you do pay for that service. I mean, what's
Mm-hmm.
your feeling on agents as far as versus doing things yourself as opposed to using agents? 'Cause I know myself, I prefer to use agents, but what's your take on it?
Well, so like in general, if you're on a tight budget, and maybe you have a Thai wife or a Thai person that you could try to attempt it on your own. And if it
Mm,
doesn't work out, then you go with the lawyer or the agent route. But for most of us, if you really have the money to open up a company, you should really be using a lawyer for the more complicated types of companies, like for example, if you're registering a company as an American under the Amity Treaty, that's quite difficult. If you're registering a sole proprietorship, that's quite difficult. If you're opening up a BOI company, which stands for Board of Investment, that's really complicated. Sometimes you don't have to follow the ratio of Thai staff. The investment levels are extremely high, and the different categories of business. Those are the times you should use a lawyer. But for this basic company, like if you're opening up a bar or a restaurant or something like that, typically everything can be done by an agency, and you don't want to try to do it by yourself. There's
no.
obviously all the documents need to be in Thai language. That's the main reason, right? Why you'd want to use a lawyer or an agency.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, really, if you're in your own country and you opened up a serious business, you're gonna understand all the documentation, but you would probably still, we call them solicitors in the UK, you call them lawyers, but you'd
Mm-hmm.
probably still need to engage these people for contracts and witness statements and things like that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and not, if you don't speak Thai, then yeah, okay, if you've got a Thai girlfriend or a Thai wife, it's going to be a lot easier because
Mm-hmm.
she can translate for you, she can help you communicate. But I don't think
Mm-hmm.
it's very, very easy, even with a Thai partner. I think it's probably easier to go through agents to
Sure.
get that sort of thing done. But let me ask you a question, another question. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is quite a complicated. There's so many sort of different rules and scenarios for opening up a business. Let's do a
Mm-hmm.
simplified form. So let's just say, because a lot of guys ask me this, a lot of guys say, "Oh, I was thinking of coming to Thailand, going down to Pattaya and opening a bar." Well, there's thousands of
Mm-hmm.
bars down there. I've seen bars do well. I've seen bars fail, as same as you have. But just say there's a
Mm-hmm.
guy. We'll make a really simple way of doing it. Okay, so there's a guy. He's got a Thai girlfriend. He's now in the UK or Canada, America, wherever, and he wants to come and settle down. He wants to retire, not retire. He wants to come out here long term, live with his Thai
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend, and he's decided, okay, I'll open a small kind of beer bar on one of the soys on the beach road, soy 7, soy 8. He's got a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
money, sold a house maybe. So just talk us through the procedure from say when he arrives in Thailand with his money already here in the bank. What would be the procedure he'd have to go through to day one of being in that bar open?
Right. Okay. So, I could just give you this in a general type of a way, right? So
That's fine. That's fine.
obviously, yeah, I would recommend first step is you make sure that you have your business plan. So that way you have an idea of what your expenses are going to be and how much money you're going to need to actually open the business. Because often, I've seen businesses that open and close within 2 months, right?
Mm,
And
mm,
the big reason is they haven't done a business plan. They haven't done their research. So that would
mm.
be the first step. And after that's all done, and you decide that after your consultations with maybe our firm or someone else that you're going to go ahead with it. So then, the actual company itself can be opened up, within a day or two. The actual
Okay.
company itself, as long as there's no out of the ordinary things like a foreign business license. But then you have to think about all of the other things that go after that, right? So the registering of the capital, setting up of the shareholders meeting, getting your licenses like a restaurant
Shareholders
license.
meeting. I'm talking
So
about one guy opening a small bar. Would he need a shareholders meeting? Who would be the
yes,
shareholders?
well, to open up the company, he has to have now a minimum of two shareholders and two
I got you.
promoters that can be the
Okay.
same, right? And the
Right.
shareholders meeting is like, you have to set it up because that's like how they do the official opening of the company, right?
Okay.
You
I
know
got
what I
you. I
mean?
got you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there has to be a minutes of the meeting done and all that kind of stuff, right?
Even for a
So
small bar, one man band.
yeah, as well, no, because it really couldn't be a one man thing because if he's going to get a work permit, he's got to have that 4 Thai staff, right? He's got to have, that proper capital investment as well, too, right? So
Ah,
yeah,
okay. Yeah. 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 Okay.
yeah. So once the company, oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, so if there's a guy watching this and he's thinking, oh well, I'll go to Thailand and open a bar, he can't just open the bar with him and his wife and operate the bar like he could in his own country. You're saying he would have to take on 4 Thai staff. He'd have to
Hmm.
register a company with so many
Hmm.
shareholders. There'd have to be minutes to every month or something like that. So that
No,
there's
this is just to open up the company, right? You have to have the initial shareholder meeting. After that, the meetings only need to happen either once a year or when there's other decisions that need to be made, right? Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah. But this is just for the initial setup, right? There are a lot of guys that will supply the investment for their wives or their Thai girlfriends to open up the business and run it. And those, under those circumstances, they would, especially if they're married, they could go on a marriage visa, and the wife could, they could just provide all of the financial support for their wife to open up the business. And then obviously, certain things that we've talked about that you have to do to get your work permit wouldn't be done, right? And
Mm,
all over Thailand, there's foreigners maybe that are working and they haven't got their actual work permits, right? So
sure, sure.
unfortunately, there are people that are taking risks, and this is one of the situations where they're taking a risk, right? But you actually can be a shareholder in a company without working. So,
Mm.
in this case, the foreigner could actually still own shares in his wife's company, but he just doesn't, require the work permit. So he really shouldn't be doing any day-to-day stuff in the bar or the restaurant that his wife is basically running, right? So yeah.
Got you, got you. So, just out of interest for this video, have you come across anybody? Because I know there's a lot of guys being caught out. They come here and they get retirement visas, but they go and do a job, they work, and some of them do
Hmm.
get caught. Have you come across anybody like that? I mean, have you seen anybody be deported, or what's the consequences of being caught
Hmm.
working without a work permit? What happens to these guys?
Yeah, so if they get caught working without a work permit, so you get arrested, you get fined, you go to court, you could do some jail time, and then you
Wow.
get deported. Are there ways that you can, get around having that happen to you? Yes, in Thailand sometimes you can you can do something where maybe that doesn't happen to you, but unfortunately, you know if that happens to you, that's what the possibilities are. And so, our advice is we don't recommend anybody, whether they're a shareholder or not in a business. If you don't have a work permit, you can't involve yourself in the day-to-day operations of the business. Can
No.
you go in and sit there and have a beer while your wife is working? Yes. But if the police come in do an inspection for some reason, and they see that you're in there all the time, they're going to ask you to prove that you're not really working there, right? And
Yeah,
there's
sure.
a lot of examples of people working without work permits all over the country, and you just got to, you can just go in and you can see that maybe there's somebody in that business who's a part of that business, but when you go in, they don't seem like they're actually working, right? And
Mm,
that
mm.
that might be a situation where we're talking about now, right? So
And is it like instant deportation? It's guaranteed. So if you get caught without a work permit working, you're instantly deported once you've been to court. I mean, they don't take you to court, maybe fine you and slap you on the wrist and say, "Don't do it again." You will get deported. Is that
yeah,
always?
yeah, yeah,
And
you will get deported.
is it a ban for life, or is there a certain time?
The court usually decides on that, right? But 5 years is
Wow.
the normal type of a blacklist that you would get for this type of a situation. But it could be
Mm.
more, it could be less. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
it's definitely more stricter. I mean, years ago, I'm talking about maybe 10 years ago, I know a guy who got
Hmm.
caught working, and it was kind of innocent, really, because what it was, he went to live in one of the bigger villages up in Isan, and his
Hmm.
wife had a food cart, and it did very well. I think she was taking about 2,000 baht a day at the time, and she was
Hmm.
cooking the chicken sticks and the pork and everything, the sort of thing, the cart
Hmm.
on the road.
Hmm.
And she had to go she had to go and collect her child at a certain time of the day from somewhere, and her but he was English actually, boyfriend, husband, whatever.
Hmm.
He used to go to the car, and everybody knew him in the village because he'd been there a long time. So she used to go off and
Sure.
collect why he didn't go off, I don't know, but she used to go off and collect her child, and then he'd run the whatever the stall's called, let's call it a hot dog store. He'd run it,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
he'd be selling this stuff just for half an hour or something, and the word got round, and the police actually did catch him, but they basically warned him, because I was saying this is years ago. They basically said, look, we
Hmm.
know you're on a retirement, whatever visa he was on. He wasn't on a work permit.
Sure. Hmm.
You're not allowed. If we catch you again, you'll be in trouble. And they let it go, and that was it. But so from what
Hmm.
you're saying, I'm gathering that if that was today, that wouldn't happen. He would be arrested.
In most scenarios, you wouldn't get away with it unless you were able to make some, arrangement, which I
Right.
think you understand what I'm referring
Yes,
to,
I
right?
know exactly. I know
Yeah,
what you mean. Yeah.
but but most people that get caught working without a work permit, it sometimes it happens from an inspection, but most of the time it comes from a tip off from an unhappy customer that wants revenge, or
Mm,
or maybe there's a complaint that's been made against the business, and the police go to investigate that complaint, and then they find out while they're investigating that complaint that there's staff working there illegally, right? So that's basically how it normally happens. Yeah.
So what about these guys? I'm just kind of throwing a few things in the air now, but what about
Sure.
these guys who don't actually have a bricks and mortar business here? Maybe they work on laptops. They could be drop sellers. They could have an IT business where they have clients all over the world, and their money gets paid into a bank in America, for instance. But they're technically they are working because they're in their apartments. They're
Mhm.
banging away on their keyboards and drop shipping for
Mhm.
Amazon, or they're
Mhm.
website designing. So they're here on a visa that they shouldn't work, but in theory they are working every day on their laptops. How does
Mhm.
that work?
Okay, so you are correct, Peter, that when you look at the legal definition of work, all these people, and we'll call them digital nomads,
Mm,
and we talked about that class of foreigner or expat during our visa video, right?
sure. Yeah, I
So
remember.
we
Yeah.
so we'll call them digital nomads, okay? And the Thai government has put into place um, different programs for digital nomads, and they know that they're working, but as long as they'll tolerate it, and they'll open up these other programs for them, like the LTR visa and the elite visa, for example, to increase in to increase investment in the country, because these people are going to be here spending money, and as
Sure.
long as they don't compete with the Thai people, and all of their customers are located outside of Thailand, they receive all of their funds outside of the country into their foreign bank account, and there's no interaction with stakeholders, customers, or beneficiaries or anything inside the country. The government is really okay with that, okay? And
Mm.
so if you kind of follow that general premise, then you'll never have a problem as a digital nomad. But at the end of the day, permission to stay and permission to work is not the same thing at the end of the
Sure,
day.
sure. And I think
Yep.
it's also important to mention those two visas you mentioned for digital nomads. The elite
Mm-hmm.
visa is something else. That's just a very expensive visa that gives you a lot more
Mm-hmm.
privileges. You can come and go, and
Mm-hmm.
it lasts for
Sure.
years and stuff. So if you've got big money, then
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. But with the
Mm-hmm.
digital nomads visa, I know, for instance, one of the stipulations is you've got to be able to prove that you've worked for a large IT firm for a number of years, along with
Mm-hmm.
some other bits and pieces. And I think most digital
Mm-hmm.
nomads who are one-man bands, they work alone. They're self-taught.
Sure.
They've watched, they've watched
Mm-hmm.
videos, have read books, they've gained their experience over time, and they get to a level where they can make money.
Mm-hmm.
Those sort of guys can't really apply for that visa because they haven't got the
Sure.
qualification, not qualification, that's the wrong word. They don't meet the criteria to get that
Mm-hmm.
visa. Am I right in saying that or not?
Yeah, I would say that you're correct on that. And so that's why the government is lenient when they look at their definition of work. And, they do allow people to come here on a tourist visa or another visa that's not a work visa, like that's a non-B visa, to do certain types of business, like attending some meetings, sourcing products, and stuff like that,
Mm,
right? But then, that's only for a very temporary period of time, and then you leave,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
you know so So the government is now very lenient when it comes to digital nomads, as long as they keep their nose clean. They don't compete with the Thai people in the industry that they're working in. They don't have anybody, with a dispute with anybody, right? Which obviously, if they don't have customers inside Thailand, then they're never going to have a dispute with anybody, right? But often that's not the case. Often a digital nomad in IT, for example, might come to Thailand and work as a digital nomad under that premise that he's not going to source his customers here, but maybe as an exception, he may accept one, and then he, oh, that's good money, I'll accept another one, and then it kind of gets spiraling out of control. And then they end up in hot water because of that, right? Yeah.
I've actually seen that situation happen that you've just described. A guy came here who was a digital nomad. His business wasn't doing really well, and at one of the bars he went into regular, proper standalone bar, he got talking to the owner, found out what he did and everything. And the owner said, "Well, look, I'll give you 10,000 baht if you make me a simple website." He did. He got a bit more business, and then he told his friend, and before you knew it, this guy was based in Thailand on a non-work permit and full time. He was designing websites for bars, nightclubs, and he got caught because of exactly what you said. He was working alone, but one of the bar owners who wasn't happy about something, he didn't quite do the website how he wanted it, and they couldn't resolve the issue. So the bar owner basically called up the immigration, said, "Look, this guy's working. He's done all these websites, and he hasn't got a visa," and he got into a lot of trouble over that.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit. So, when you do work as a digital nomad, that's when you have to be very careful that you follow some of the advice that I provided, which is don't contact customers inside Thailand. Don't do any sourcing of any kind. Just work on your computer at home, get your money paid into your overseas bank account. And, if you do, and this is another issue for another video, Peter, but, after you've been here for a certain amount of time in a row, you become a resident for tax purposes, right?
Yes,
in some cases, these digital nomads should consider paying tax on the money that they bring into the country if they're classified as a resident for tax purposes. And there was just a recent, and this is going to interest you, Peter, there was just a recent announcement in the news where the revenue department in Thailand is going to start looking at these all of the online people, all the people that are working online, whether they're Thai or foreigners, and are they actually paying tax as they're supposed to pay? And so they mentioned in that video about influencers such as yourself, right?
And well, I already pay 7% tax here because my YouTube channel is actually registered here in Thailand, not the UK, for that reason. Because we pay 20% in the UK. Here it's 7%, so I opted to register here in Thailand.
Good. So that's excellent, right? But there are Thai people and foreigners that are doing, online work in Thailand, and the revenue department is going to start sticking their hand out, and it's totally separate from the work permit issue and working without the permission. It's because I don't know if you know this, but if you get if you want to let's say you work for a Thai company and you have a dispute of some kind with them, right? So you can take that company to labor court and resolve your issue without being fearful that you'll get in trouble for working for that company without a work permit. These things are totally separate issues, believe it or not. So the court is not going to scrutinize you for working without a work permit if you have a labor dispute. Totally separate issue. Totally separate issue.
Well, look,
but you just don't want to be in that situation anyway, right?
Agreed. Yeah. But we're talking a lot about visas here, and this video is about opening up a business. So what I think I'll do, I've got another question here for you, last one. How long? 40 minutes now. I think we can wind this up soon. Just we've touched on this already, but I want to ask you. I've written it down. I put, can a foreigner open any business or a Thai company, or are there restrictions on the type of businesses they can open? And I did touch on that with the plumbers and electricians, but maybe you can tell us a bit about that, what they can and cannot do.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of businesses, and I can, pull up my phone and read a bunch of them. But, some examples, like you said, are plumbers. You're working in agriculture, technically there are businesses like consultants and that sort of thing that are supposed to be only for Thai people, but there's ways that you can set up the company to get around that. But yeah, just any of the obvious businesses that you see Thais doing
Tour
that,
guide.
yeah, tour guide, driving a taxi, for example, all the stuff like that, you're not going to be able to do it unless you're an American, and then you'll get some exemption from
Yeah.
some of those, right? So the way to get around that obviously is you put the business under your wife's name, and she does most, she does the work, right?
Mm.
And most guys are, coming here over 50 anyway, so they don't want to work, but they're happy to support their girlfriends or their spouses to open up a business, and then they can be a shareholder if they want, but they don't have to work actually in the business, right? So you should be a shareholder instead of just giving all the money to your wife. You should be a shareholder actually in the
Yeah.
company. You
Sure.
have
Sure.
some protection that way, right? Yeah.
Right. Okay. I thought of even another last question. This is a
Mm.
question that gets asked to me because when I do my live streams, people ask me questions like this, and I don't always have
Oh,
the
okay.
answers for them. But one of the questions people ask me, guys come out here on their own, older guys, 40 plus, 45, 50, even
Hmm.
older. They meet a nice girl, they stay together, but they don't want the girl to just be hanging around all the time and he's supporting her. But what they are willing to do is maybe
Hmm.
they think it's quite a good idea. Well, I'll open a business for my wife, and that way she can go
Hmm.
out to work, and the money that she makes, she can keep her own money. That way, I don't
Hmm.
have to support her. She makes good money, and she's busy in
Hmm.
the daytime. She comes home, and we can spend quality time together, rather than she's hanging around the house all day. I need money for this. I need money for that. So if a guy
Hmm.
comes out here and he's not a wealthy guy, like me, I'm not wealthy. But
Hmm.
he's okay, and he's come upon this idea and thought, well, you know what, I'd like to open a little business for my wife, but he doesn't want to lose his money, obviously, and he feels that the girl can be trusted to the point that if he opened the business, she will run it. What is there any
Hmm.
sort of small businesses that you could suggest that a guy could set up for his Thai girlfriend that she could do and she could make,
Hmm.
half decent money?
Well, it depends on the expectations of that, that person's girlfriend or wife, right?
So let's say, for example, she's got no real skills, as it were, but she's fit and healthy, so she can near enough do anything. But I'm talking more on small business, like maybe a little stand that sells clothes, or a noodle
Hmm.
stand, or something along the lines of there. Is there anything else you can think of at the top of your head?
So, a small coffee shop would be good. So it doesn't have to be like a franchise like Amazon, but it could be like just a small independent coffee shop,
Yeah, sure.
just a stand. I know a guy that opened up a taco business, a small taco stand for his girlfriend. I know a guy that opened up a visa agency with his girlfriend, and she ran it without him for a long,
Ah.
for a few years, and now he ended up coming over here to Pattaya, and now he's got a work permit and he's running the business, and they're a really, really, really good team. So it
Mm.
could be anything, but smaller businesses are what you should start
I was
out
going to
with.
say, what about
Uh,
things like, because this is the obvious thing that guys ask me about, and I always don't
mhm,
think it's a good idea, but what about things like
mhm.
massage shops, small beer bars, that kind of a business?
Oh, those are not as sustainable, I think,
No, no.
because, especially in Pattaya, you see all the businesses that, beer bars and massage shops, and they open up and they close, and it's very
Mm,
difficult for them to be, a long-term sustainable business, right?
yeah.
Obviously, for these types of brick and mortar businesses, even for small shops on the street or street vendors, right, is that location is the key, right? So if you open up a small like a vendor style of business on Soy Bucao, for example, or on Walking Street, obviously that's something that can be moved around, right? You can
Mm, mm,
change your location often, right? But if you
mm,
go and you open up like a full blown beer bar, for example, and you choose the wrong location, and your wife or girlfriend gets lazy and decides that it's not for them,
mm.
after it's opened up, right? Then you're stuck with the business, and you might have to sell it, right? And you're going to lose a lot
Mm.
of money. So I see that
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
I think one thing that's really important, we're nearly done now. We've been going for 45 minutes. It's been
Mhm.
very interesting, actually. But I
Mhm.
think something that I'd like to throw in, which I think is very, very important, I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me on this. I think it's
Mhm.
really important to check if you're buying a business off somebody. It's so
Mhm.
important to check independently what they're telling you. I'll give you a small example of something I knew about years and years and years ago. A guy
Mhm.
bought a nightclub. They had to close at midnight, and the nightclubs here are normally successful if they can stay open later than the bars, because the bars
Mhm.
close and then people go to the nightclubs. Like they had one in Nana Hotel. It was called Angels. I don't know if you remember that years
Ah,
ago.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, everything had closed. All the girls, no customers would go
Mhm.
over there, so it was did very, very well. And I know a guy. I don't know him personally, but I knew of a guy who bought a kind of, it's a dated word now, but disco, and he was told
Mhm.
by the owner that he'd applied for a license to stay up until 3 in the morning, and that had been
Mhm.
approved, and he was just waiting for the paperwork. And the guy put a lot of money into this business. The old owner went off on his way, and as it happened, there was no application for a
Mhm.
license. The disco had to close when everything else closed, and it just
Mhm.
didn't make any money. It failed, and the guy lost his money. So
Mhm.
I think it's so important to check independently. Don't, if you're buying a business, don't believe. Don't. I mean, I'm not saying the guy's a liar, but I mean, you've got to check it independently for yourself.
I agree with that. So yes, always do your due diligence before you buy another business, and you start that due diligence. You can hire a lawyer or an agent. They can pull the public records from the DVD database, and you
Mm,
can look at the financial statements, for the company. Make sure that there's no problems with that, and that's a good start. And then obviously, if somebody says they've got a license, right, get your representative to go and confirm that's actually the case. Sometimes, with the example that you used, right, the guy could have been referring to an arrangement he had made with the authorities to stay open until that
mm.
time, right? But in his mind, he presented it to the prospective buyer as he's got a license. But
Yeah,
actually,
sure.
no, he has like a kind of an under the table type of promise where he's allowed to do that. But as everybody knows, these arrangements can go sideways
Mm,
if you
mm.
do that, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Okay. Right. It's been interesting, Peter. I want to thank you for being my guest once again. This is getting to be
Hmm.
a regular thing now. And as I said, guys, if you want to know more about Peter's company, there is a link in the description that will take you to his website, and you can read all about everything he does there. Um, you'll be back, I hope, Peter, in about a month's time with another subject.
Yes,
Any
of course, yes.
ideas on what you'd like to discuss next?
I think we're going to talk about insurance,
Okay, because I'm actually doing a video on that very shortly, because I'm just going through the process of getting my. Are you talking about health insurance?
health insurance, travel insurance, both.
Okay, that's good. I'm actually going to do quite a lengthy video. I'm going. I won't mention the company now. I've mentioned it before, but I'm actually getting a full
Hmm.
package of full health coverage, and I asked a lot of questions. I've been going back and
Hmm.
forth. I've just actually put the application in now. I'm going to be making a video. That'll be interesting. So it'll be good that we do that as well, and I look forward to that with you. How's Pattaya at the moment? I was down in Pattaya 2 weeks ago. Is it still busy?
Yeah, it's really busy. It's like night and day,
Mm.
from last year. But I think we're going to be coming into to low season soon, right? So when that happens, then it's going to go back to the way it was, for a while.
I know, and I watch so many videos where people say, "Oh, I've just come back from Pattaya and it's dead. It's not the same." And this, I've been down there sort of 3 times recently. Last time 2 weeks ago,
Hmm.
and packed, absolutely packed.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but when do you think it will start to go quieter down there?
If I had to guess, around Songkran, which is the
April?
beginning or the middle of April. Yeah,
Yeah, it starts to
because
get hot,
people
very
are
hot
getting
as well.
holidays now. Yeah, people are
Yeah,
getting holidays. For the March break. In the West, right? We have the March break,
sure,
and
sure.
sometimes people like to take their holidays around that time. But
Yeah,
usually around April, things start to get quiet again, and
yeah.
a lot of the employees will make plans to go back home to see their families as well during Songkran, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I personally living here now. I actually prefer low season because it's a bit more quieter.
Hmm.
You get better deals and stuff like that. The only negative side, of course, is it's very, very hot in low season.
Sure,
Hence why it's low season. So
sure.
anyway, all right, going off topic there a little bit. Okay, Peter, thanks again. And I'm going back to the UK soon, just for a week or two. But when I come back,
Hmm.
I'll probably head down there and I'll meet up with you and we'll do another video side by side like we did in the
Okay,
first one, if that's okay with you.
no worries.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Peter.
Okay, Peter, take care.
Cheers. Okay, so that was Peter from Thai Legal Protection. Always interested in having Peter on the channel, and as we've just discussed, he'll be back with another subject next month, health insurance. Until then, guys, thanks for joining me for another video. I'll be back with the stories on Saturday, live stream Sunday night. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all real soon.